Hi everyone, Aiden here with etrailer. Today we're going to be taking a look at the RockyMounts GigaWatt 2-bike rack, and we're going to see how it fits on the back of our 2022 Ford Maverick. Now if you have a heavy e-bike and you're not super comfortable lifting the weight of that bike up and onto a bike rack, then I think this is going to be a great option for you because for one, it's got an 80-pound weight capacity per bike, so you can get some really heavy bikes up here. And it's going to come with a loading ramp. We'll show you that in just a bit when we unload the bike, but it's going to be one really long solid metal ramp that makes it way easier to get your bikes loaded and unloaded because you don't have to put all the force in to lift it, you just got to ease it down and up the ramp. Aside from that though, this will work with a wide range of different bikes and different styles. Primarily, we're holding the bike by our front tire with this wheel hook. That means zero frame contact, making it a good option for carbon frame or alternative frame. And with the way those hooks are set up, you've got secondary straps. So if you have a front fender, you can put the hook really wherever it fits on that front tire. Just make sure you utilize those rubber straps, and that's going to keep that front tire from moving around too much and also allow it to work with the fender. Now underneath the rack, you're going to have a blue handle you can pull to tilt the whole thing away from your Maverick. And it does have a pretty aggressive tilt here, so just watch out if you have it loaded with a second bike because it will be coming down on top of you a little bit. But this is going to allow us some access into our bed. I've got the support cable raised up to the upper stud right now because we don't have enough clearance to fully lower the tailgate. That's pretty true for most bike racks in the Maverick though, so not a huge loss. It at least allows us to grab something out of the back, whether it be our helmet or a cooler, or maybe that included loading ramp, like I mentioned earlier. It's almost the exact same length as the bed, so it fits in there perfectly. And you can keep it there because there's no spot on the rack to store it. So that's probably where you'll be keeping it on your Maverick. And you can bring this out whenever you're ready to unload or load. But to do that first, let's tilt the rack back up. Just grab it by some secure point and lift up. Now the ramp's going to set up at the rear of each tray. We have a wall behind us right now, so I'm going to set it up on this one so we can actually use the ramp. It's just going to hook into these tabs at the back of those trays. And once you have it set up, you can start unhooking your bike. For this one, we're just going to start at this front wheel where we've got a rubber strap at the bottom as an extra support. We also want to take care of our rear wheel strap, which is just a blue button with a ratcheting strap that pulls out. And then last is our wheel hook. We do this last because it's going to be the thing holding the bike upright, so you want to have a hand on the bike when you do that. Just squeeze the blue handle and push up and out on the hook. Now from here, you'd start wheeling your bike backwards onto the ramp, but again, for us today, I'm just going to lift it to the other tray so I can show you how stable that ramp is as we wheel it down. But I've flipped the bike around so we can see a closer look at what it actually would look like backing the bike down. You can see as it transitions onto the ramp, it's plenty wide. There's tons of surface area to grip that tire, and it doesn't really shift around on me too much, whether I'm backing it down or rolling it back up. Before we fully fold things up though, let's take a few measurements of the rack, starting with our ground clearance. The tray tapers off at the rear, which means our lowest point to the ground here is 20 inches. That's an amazing amount of ground clearance, so I don't think you'll really have to worry about that with the Maverick. And even though it does sit up high, with how long that ramp is, you saw the angle of approach really isn't too steep, which is a really good thing for those heavy e-bikes. For the length we add though to the back, we're going to go from the bumper to the furthest point out, which for us is sitting right at 36 inches. That's a pretty big bike rack. For just carrying two bikes, that does stick out more than most, but it's so that these trays can be spaced further apart than most too. As you're ramping your bikes up and down, it means you'll have less issues running into each other with two bikes loaded up here. It's a really helpful thing, especially if you're worried about the weight of those e-bikes. But we can fold this up for easier storage when it's not in use. We'll pull that same pin we did before, only this time pushing up and towards our vehicle. And now we're gonna cut that length down by quite a bit. Now only sticking out 15 inches from the bumper. This is gonna be way easier to drive around with and especially park with. But folded up is where it really starts to show its size on the Maverick, because this is a super wide bike rack and it's also pretty tall. That height will be blocking your backup camera. The width is gonna definitely block your license plate. And even on the driver's side, we're blocking a little bit of our taillights over here with this top tray. You're still gonna be able to see it for the most part, but because of all those obstructions, I maybe wouldn't drive around with it in the hitch full time. If you need to leave it there between some rides and it's easier to just leave it and not take it out because we're gonna use it again in a couple days, then sure, go for it. But me personally, I would probably take it out a little bit more frequently between uses because of that. Looking in close at our hitch though, we can see it's fitting inside of our 2" by 2" receiver tube, and it does come with a locking anti-rattle bolt. That way things stay solid and secure in the hitch. But when it comes to capable e-bike carriers like this that include a ramp out of the box, I think the GigaWatt is one of the best picks you can get. There's two other major players when it comes to that style of bike rack, and it's gonna be the Hollywood Rack's Destination e-bike rack and the Yakima On-Ramp LX. Both include a ramp and both have very high weight capacities. And I think the strengths you get with those two is that they're both a bit more compact and they don't obtrude as much on the back of the Maverick. The GigaWatt's is big, it's really wide, it's a little bit heavier, and it might be a bit harder to manage in that regard. But when it comes to loading the bikes, I think the GigaWatt's gonna be the easiest of the three. I think it also includes the best ramp of the three. It's certainly the longest. And it's just simple to use once it's in the hitch. So if you can look past the maybe difficulty of storing it and getting it to the hitch, I think you're gonna have a great solid bike rack. And it's important to note that all three of those options work about the same on the Maverick. I have tested all three and they're about equal, both blocking the license plate, backup camera, things like that. But if you liked everything you saw here today, this was just our look at the RockyMounts GigaWatt on our 2022 Ford Maverick. My name's Aiden, and thanks for watching.